Conference following the Foreign Affairs Council. We are reaching a year since the Russian unleashed its aggression against Ukraine. The ministers and the HRVP have put together a visual demonstration of our support to Ukraine. Let me invite you to watch our video, and then the HRVP will brief you about the outcome of the meeting, and he will take your question. But first, I invite you to watch the video.
1 year ago, Russia unleashed a brutal aggression against its peaceful neighbor, thinking that they can invade a country and take it by the rule of force in a few days. But they failed, and they will continue failing. Ukraine is
right, courage,
respect,
diversity, Europe, bravery,
heroic people,
family,
victory, Thermopylae,
justice,
dignity,
freedom,
liberty,
patriotism,
perseverance,
unity,
resilience,
determination,
accountability,
cecil,
solidarity,
humanity,
principles,
justice, européenne,
a friend.
We stand with Ukraine.
And now the HRVP will come and he will brief you on the outcome of today's Foreign Affairs Council. But he forgot.
The casting was not very good, but yes.
Non, prenez ça d'abord, et puis ça c'est pour lettres.
Go? Okay.
Vous pouvez y aller.
Well, good evening. This week is going to be unavoidably a Ukrainian week. Today, Foreign Affairs Council. Tomorrow, a meeting with the Secretary General of NATO, myself as High Representative, and Minister Kuleba at the NATO headquarters to evaluate together the military situation and the actions to be taken. And immediately after, to the United Nations and the vote at the General Assembly. So, both internationally, military, at the European institutions, we continue taking care of the war at Ukraine. Well, at the previous week in Munich also. But today we started the Council with a minute of silence to pay tribute to the almost over 40,000 victims. The number continues increasing, and we are already at about 40,000 victims of the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. The priority of the European Union and its member states is to help the hundreds of thousands of people affected in both countries without a shelter, and all the needs that we can provide, we are doing it. We have been responding quickly with unwavering solidarity to the Turkish and Syrian people in these difficult times. After this minute of silence, we started discussing about the Russia illegal, unprovoked and full-scale invasion of Ukraine. It was 1 year ago, And we had a long and intense Foreign Affairs Council on that. 1 year of daily death, destruction, and crimes against humanity. I'm sure that Putin was not thinking when he unleashed the invasion of Ukraine that 1 year later he and his army would be in the situation they are now. But we couldn't imagine neither the amount of suffering, destruction and death that the Ukrainian people are bearing since then. It has been certainly an awful year, and the coming weeks will be crucial. This was the feeling at the Munich conference. This has been the feeling at the Foreign Affairs Council today. The coming weeks, the coming spring, will be crucial. Russia is massing troops in the front line. 350,000 Russian soldiers, almost twice the number of soldiers that were there at the beginning of the war. 50,000 artillery shots every day. Yes, certainly Russia is unleashing another offensive, and it will continue. And we have to continue our strong, unwavering support to Ukraine until Ukraine prevails and wins. For that, time is of essence. Speed means lives. And we need to respond quickly, not only more support, but to provide it quicker. We have to continue delivering what is needed. We have tools. The European Peace Facility will continue funding and training the Ukrainian armed forces in the framework of our training mission. But as I said several times these last days, the Ukrainian army urgently needs large amount of ammunition to counter Russia's aggression. You may have a gun, but a gun needs a bullet, especially for tanks and artillery. We have to deliver, we have to move faster. Today we discuss how to intensify our joint efforts, but this is a matter for the Ministers of Defense more than the Ministers of Foreign Affairs. And I will present concrete proposals to the Ministers of Defense in Stockholm on the next 7th, 8th of March. It is evident that we have to launch procedures in order to increase the capacity of the European industry to produce more and quicker. It is evident that we have to intensify our joint efforts, notably through possible procurements at the European level to address Ukraine's urgent needs. But it is also clear that in the next weeks, the best way to provide ammunition to Ukraine is to share the already existing ammunition stockpiles of the European armies. We don't have to wait for them to be produced. We have to use what has already been produced and stockpiled, or has already been contracted and will be produced in the coming days. Priority has to be given to the supplies for the Ukrainian army, as much as we can. So we have short-term objectives, medium-term and long-term, but the important one today is the short-terms. It doesn't mean that we don't have to think about how to provide more, quicker and better capacities through any kind of procedure. But my most important concern is to work on a time scale of weeks. And a time scale of weeks means to use what you have already produced and produce more in order to fill the gaps. All that has to be done in order to put more pressure on Russia. And today we have been discussing the 10th package of sanctions that, as High Representative and the Commission together, we have presented as a regulation for the Council to approve. We are on the way of approving it, and I think it's going to be approved on the next hours, on the next days, before the 24th in any case. The 10th package of sanctions will be approved by written procedure before the 24th. The obstacles that still remain will be overcome. This is the commitment of all ministers. There was a strong support across the room for the package, and I insist, I am confident that we will be able to adopt it before the end of the week. At the end is the Council who approves the sanctions, and this requires unanimity. And let me remind that sanctions work, that we are impacting severely the Russian economy. Look at the public deficit, look at the trade deficit, look at the income coming from selling hydrocarbons. These three variables are in a very bad shape. Last year was a good year for Russia because they could sell a lot of hydrocarbons in a moment where the energy prices were rocketing. But this is over. We have get rid of our dependency on Russian hydrocarbons, and the prices are going down. And Russia is selling its oil at $40 a barrel, half the price of the Brent in the international markets. So have a look at these three parameters: trade, deficit, and income from hydrocarbons, and you will see how much the sanctions are affecting the Russian capacity to continue financing the war. We also discussed about how the work on full accountability is going. We discussed about which is the appropriate mechanism to face these accountability procedures. Still more important, we have this vote at UNGA this week, and together with Ukraine and our G7 partners, we are conducting an intense outreach in order to ensure a broad support for the resolution of the United Nations Charter principles being put to vote on the General Assembly. I will be together with several colleagues in New York. We all have been in Kiev during this year. And today President Biden is visiting our neighbors, Ukrainians, neighbors and friends. Visit of President Biden, it's a clear demonstration of our transatlantic unity and our resolve to continue supporting Ukraine together. On my meeting tomorrow with the Secretary General of the NATO and Minister Kuleba, it's also a proof of this transatlantic unity. This war happens in European soil, but it has a global impact. This war has been sending shock waves to the whole world, creating a lot of troubles on the market and food market, on the energy and food markets, increasing prices, provoking inflation, the reaction of the central banks, raising interest rate, creating economic downturns on the economic growth. After the pandemic, the economy was recovering. The war has killed the recovery in many places. And the Black Sea Grain Initiative, that was a relief to this food crisis, is expiring in mid-March, in a couple of weeks. And it needs to continue. All countries in the world must pressure Russia to allow its extension and remove its restriction for agricultural exports. We have been contributing through our EU-Ukraine solidarity lanes, which have allowed and facilitate to export of more than 50 million tons of exports from Ukraine to the rest of the world, and helping to stabilize global food prices. But this deal, brokered by the United Nations and Turkey, has to be extended. Otherwise, we will have again a food crisis in the world. After discussing about Ukraine, we were glad to welcome the Moldovan Foreign Minister, Nicu Popescu. We exchanged views about the direct consequences of the war, including the unacceptable repeated violations of Moldova's airspace and Russia's weaponization of energy supply against Moldova. Moldova needs support. We are supporting Moldova. We will continue supporting Moldova on its European path. The enlargement process has today a completely different political meaning than before the war. And strengthening Moldova's resilience and security is the best way to ensure that they will advance in the European path. Moldova, as Ukraine, belongs to the European family, and its future lies within the European Union. Now it's absolutely clear, and we have to build on it. Moldova expressed a clear wish to benefit from our CSDP Common Security and Defence Policy mission. We will continue studying the possibility of such a mission in Moldova, which should support our candidate in enhancing their resilience against foreign interference and destabilization effort. They are suffering a lot of this destabilization push, and we have to help them to face this situation. We are supporting Moldova through the European Peace Facility, and we will continue doing that. You know that in the last days, we allocated 40 million of the European Peace Facility to the Moldova security forces. Also, in the case of Moldova, time is crucial, speed is of essence. And then we went to discuss on the deplorable decision by the Taliban to stop Afghan women from working in aid delivery. In Afghanistan, the Taliban are creating a gender apartheid. And this gender apartheid is having a significant impact on aid operations in Afghanistan. We heard from the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohamed, virtually connected with us, her impressions and feedback from her recent visit to Afghanistan. And the ministers have agreed that our humanitarian and basic needs and livelihood assistance will continue. But will continue, and it will be delivered in a non-discriminatory way. So they have to be in line with our principles, and the principles agreed last week by the international humanitarian donor community. Under these principles, our support will continue, because we don't want to punish twice the Afghan woman. But this has to be closely monitored and decided on a case-by-case basis during a trial period. It's clear that we don't want to abandon Afghanistan, but we don't want to increase the sufferance of the Afghan people, and in particular Afghan women, but we cannot remain silent in front of the Taliban decisions. They are fully accountable for their human rights violations, and we will calibrate our assistance in a way, as I said, to punish twice the Afghan women and to take into account what the Taliban are doing. This reflection and the future work will be captured in a council conclusion that the ministers committed to agree on the next month, and in the meantime use a 6-month period in order that we could continue delivering assistance under the full compliance with these principles. Then we went to discuss about climate and energy. We need to double our efforts to make sure that COP28 delivers more than just a repetition of already existing ambitions. 1 year ago, 4 days before Russia launching the invasion, we approve our climate diplomacy. But 4 days after, the world changes. And the Russian invasion has a big impact on the global energy market and clearly showed that there is a need for increased global action amongst the biggest emitters and a strong support of our partners in the green transition. We know that the changing climate threat and environmental degradation has serious implications for peace and security. It's not just about raising temperatures, it's about risk, global risk, about peace, about security. These are systematically affected by climate change, and we have to systematically integrate in our foreign and security policies. And that's why, together with Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans, we will present a joint communication to the Commission on these issues. The impact of climate change on security and foreign policy will be very high in our political agenda from now until the next COP28. We have to push for a pressing reform of the multilateral development banks. This is a good opportunity for that. This kind of changes only happen when there is a big crisis looming. And certainly we need to increase climate finance beyond the level of the traditional donors. It's not enough. The traditional level of traditional donors is not enough. We need to reform the multilateral development banks. I will meet United Nations Secretary General Guterres in New York later this week, and this will be part of our meeting. We will discuss this also in urgency, among other issues. And the final point of this long and intense Foreign Affairs Council, which opened the door for the 6th and 7th Defense Council, and afterwards the Jumba meeting between Defense and Foreign Affairs Ministers, was about Iran. About Iran, we adopted today 34 additional listings under the Iran human rights sanctions regime. This is our 5th package of measures targeting those individuals responsible for very severe human rights violation and the situation of the Iranian women in particular. What's happening in Iran continues to be alarming. Yesterday I had a conversation with the Iranian foreign minister in order to advance him the decision that was going to be taken today by the Council, and also to raise our concern about the news on the enrichment of uranium that has to be confirmed by the Atomic Energy Agency.
Thank you, High Representative, and we already have quite a few questions in line, so I will start with Nureddin.
By whom?
Nureddin.
Fridi from the Arabian News Channel. I'd like to ask you about Iran. Since yesterday, there are some reports suggesting that the IAEA inspectors confirmed that Iran is enriching to a level of 84%. Do you have this confirmation yourself? What could be the impact of that on the whole discussion with Iran on the GCPOA or on the cooperation level between Iran and the international agency in Vienna? And related to the relationship between Iran and the European Union, all the successive sanction packages, where all this will lead, Mr. High Representative, to isolate Iran more and more, or to, in the end, to, let's say, to cut the relationship between the European Union and Iran totally because they are not listening to you, at least in the public discussion. They are continuing the repression. They are not coming back to the JCPOA. They are enriching more and more. So where all this talks blocks on the JCPOA and plus the success of sanctions will lead the relationship between European Union and Iran? Thank you.
I'm going to answer in Spanish. My answer will be more accurate. And these are sensitive questions. So I prefer to express myself better in Spanish. We have excellent interpreters, and I am sure it's a better way of being accurate for you to understand me what I'm going to say. Mire, los asuntos nucleares son asuntos complejos y sensibles. Eso de que hay informes que dicen que posiblemente ha habido un enriquecimiento, como usted dice, son informes cuya procedencia desconozco y cuya fiabilidad también, y eso de enriquecer uranio es algo más complicado de lo que parece. El funcionamiento de las centrifugadoras es algo que no quiero entrar en detalles tecnológicos, pero no es algo que se puede decir así alegremente. Y para eso tenemos un observador, la Agencia Internacional de Energía Atómica, que tiene todas las capacidades técnicas para hacer el seguimiento de lo que pasa en el proceso nuclear, el programa nuclear iraní, y es la que me tiene que decir qué pasa. Y se lo hemos pedido y nos va a contestar en el curso de esta semana. Y hasta que no tenga un informe de la Agencia Internacional de la Energía Atómica, no me voy a pronunciar. Sobre alguien dice qué pasa, quizá algo. Vamos a ver quién me dice lo que sabe, lo que pasa. Y sí, comprendo su pregunta. Mire, las sanciones son no solamente necesarias, son absolutamente inevitables. ¿Quiere eso decir que son suficientes? No, claro que no son suficientes. Si fuera tan fácil, muchos problemas estarían resueltos. Pero las sanciones tienen una dimensión política y una dimensión práctica. Y ciertamente a Irán no le gusta que apliquemos sanciones, pero no tenemos más remedio que hacerlo porque los acontecimientos que se han producido allí son los que son. Las negociaciones para el pacto nuclear ciertamente están en un punto de, digamos, letargo invernal. No es posible avanzar en este momento dado el entorno, el conjunto de circunstancias que han ocurrido. No tenemos ningún interés en empujar a Irán hacia una mayor complicidad o cooperación con Rusia, todo lo contrario, pero es evidente que lo que ha ocurrido internamente en Irán y su contribución al esfuerzo militar ruso, aunque Irán lo sigue negando, ha paralizado un proceso de negociación que en su esencia ya antes del verano estaba en un punto muy maduro. Ahora está congelado y vamos a ver qué ocurre. Pero en mi llamada ayer con el ministro iraní le dije claramente que tienen que cesar su apoyo militar a Rusia, que insisto, Irán niega, pero creo que tenemos evidencia suficiente, que tienen que liberar a los nacionales, a los binacionales iraníes de países europeos detenidos y que tienen que cumplir con sus compromisos certificables por la Agencia Internacional de la Energía Atómica.
Okay, and now I give the floor to Rosie.
Tienes difícil escoger, ¿eh?
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
We have time.
Rosie Burchard for DW. Thank you, High Representative. This morning you said that China supplying lethal weapons to Russia, lethal aid to Russia, would be a red line in relations. But what would that mean if the red line were crossed?
Yo no he dicho que China suministre armas a Rusia.
If it were to do so, that it would be a red line. If that red line were crossed, what would be your response? How would the EU respond?
Bueno, no me ponga usted en el mismo nivel una afirmación que una condición, que un condicional. Yo no he dicho que China esté suministrando armas. Al contrario, he dicho que en mis conversaciones con el consejero Wang Yi, cuando le planteé esta cuestión, su respuesta fue clara, que es que China no lo estaba haciendo y no tenía intención de hacerlo. Lo cual, esa es la realidad de mi respuesta de esta mañana. La quiero repetir. Yo no he dicho que China esté suministrando armas. He dicho y digo que, al contrario, el State Councilor Wang Yi, a quien le planteé nuestra preocupación por esta posibilidad, me contestó de una forma muy concreta diciendo no lo hacemos, no tenemos intención de hacerlo. Lo cual no quiere decir que no tengamos que mantenernos vigilantes, que no tengamos que seguir de cerca qué es lo que está pasando. Y si tal cosa ocurriera, esto sería ciertamente un acontecimiento estratégicamente importante. Voy a utilizar un lenguaje más acorde con la diplomacia. Sería un substantive event, un evento, un acontecimiento importante que naturalmente nos obligaría a hacer una evaluación de sus consecuencias. Pero por el momento tal cosa no se ha producido.
Okay, and now yes.
Andrew Gray from Reuters. First, on the question of joint procurement, High Representative, I understand today was a general discussion. You've said it's a matter, above all, for defence ministers. But can you give us a sense of where member states stand on that issue based on your discussions so far? Is there broad agreement, or are there still significant reservations to overcome? And secondly, on climate, we were expecting to see language, text, conclusions today. We haven't seen any. Can you explain what the problem is there? Thank you.
Sí, yo también lo esperaba. Yo también esperaba que se hubieran podido resolver los pequeños problemas que todavía están pendientes de resolver y que creo que serán resueltos en las próximas horas. No vamos a tener que esperar al próximo Consejo. En los próximos días espero poder aprobar por procedimiento escrito estas conclusiones del Consejo que ustedes conocerán y que los obstáculos todavía pendientes de resolver serán resueltos. Con respecto a la primera pregunta, sí, todos los Estados miembros han demostrado su voluntad de continuar apoyando a Ucrania, de suministrarle rápidamente lo que necesita y de buscar los procedimientos necesarios para hacerlo. Bajar de las musas al teatro, como decimos. En principio está muy bien, vamos a ponerlo en escena. Y eso, como digo, es más un tema de los ministros de Defensa, que son los que compran municiones, las almacenan y las entregan para que se las entreguemos a Ucrania. Y hemos explicado lo que ya expliqué en Múnich, y creo que es importante tener claro, si el problema es un problema de urgencia y el tiempo se mide en semanas, o como mucho en un par de meses, la solución para resolver la petición de urgencia tiene que venir de intentar utilizar lo que ya existe. Porque acudir a la industria a pedir que lo fabrique, por rápido que se haga, tiene una constante de tiempo superior a la que se mide en semanas. Y por eso estoy en contacto con los ministros de Defensa, mañana con el secretario general de la OTAN, para plantearles la necesidad de que los contratos que ellos ya han pasado con la industria, porque todos los Estados miembros han contratado ya con la industria. El problema es que el ritmo al que se consumen municiones es superior al ritmo al que se producen. Y eso es como un depósito de agua, ¿no? Si sale más de lo que entra, al final se acaba vaciando. Bien, pues es lo que está pasando. El depósito se está vaciando. Por lo tanto, hay que acelerar el flujo de entrada. Y eso quiere decir aumentar la capacidad de la industria, que tampoco se hace en semanas. Luego, tengan claro los distintos objetivos en distintos plazos de tiempo para hacer frente a distintos problemas. Suministrar municiones a Ucrania para poder hacer frente a los combates que están teniendo lugar y los que van a tener lugar en las próximas semanas requiere que los Estados miembros den prioridad a Ucrania en el uso de sus capacidades actuales y las que ya han contratado con la industria. Para aumentar la capacidad de la industria hacen falta actuaciones estructurales que hay que hacer de acuerdo y en cooperación con la Comisión. Y para agilizar las producciones tenemos, tanto en la Agencia Europea de la Defensa como en la Joint Procurement Task Force, medios de hacerlo. La Agencia Europea de la Defensa ya tiene en marcha 3 programas de compra común de municiones. Es cuestión de acelerar su puesta en aplicación.
Maintenant, une question en français, Christian. Christian, qui écoute la traduction.
Oui, mais je voudrais revenir sur cette question, Monsieur Borrell, parce que vous insistez sur l'urgence. On a l'impression qu'aujourd'hui, les ministres ont dit oui, beaucoup, comme d'habitude, des déclarations. Il y a une proposition estonienne sur la table. Moi, je la comprends. Ils disent que les États membres mettent 4 milliards d'euros dans le fonds, la Facilité européenne pour la paix, pour acheter 1 million d'obus de 155. Il faut combien de temps pour faire ça? C'est une question d'argent, s'ils ne veulent pas mettre la main à la poche. Et dans ce cas-là, est-ce que c'est utile, est-ce que c'est nécessaire de jurer la main sur le cœur qu'on va aider l'Ukraine? Ça ne prend pas des mois de mettre 4 milliards sur la table, non?
Bueno, la European Peace Facility ya ha visto aumentada su capacidad financiera. Recientemente ya ha habido un acuerdo para dotarla de más de 2.000 millones adicionales. Por lo tanto, el problema inmediato no es la falta de capacidad financiera, porque estoy seguro que si hace falta poner 2.000 millones más, se pondrán. El problema es el método. El problema es en quién contrata, con quién contrata, por qué procedimientos y cómo llegan a Ucrania los contratos que le puedan ayudar. Es que ahora parece, cuando les oigo, como que si nunca hubiésemos entregado municiones a Ucrania. Llevamos 1 año entregando municiones a Ucrania. Cuando la European Peace Facility ha gastado 3,6 billones de euros, buena parte de ese dinero ha servido para financiar municiones. Claro que sí. Es que parece como si estuviéramos inventando la rueda. Llevamos 1 año suministrando municiones a Ucrania. El problema es que la guerra ha cambiado de naturaleza, ahora es una guerra de posiciones, con duelos de artilleros, que consumen mucha más munición que unos meses atrás, cuando era una guerra de movilidad, donde la artillería fija tenía un papel menor. Rusia dispara hoy 50.000 balas de artillería cada día. Cada día. 50.000. No les voy a dar la cifra de Ucrania, pero ciertamente es menor. Esta guerra de posiciones con duelos de artilleros requiere más munición. Entonces lo que hay que hacer es lo que veníamos haciendo, pero más. Más y, si es posible, más a prisa. Pero no vamos a inventar aquí la pólvora. Llevamos entregando municiones a Ucrania desde hace 1 año. Vamos a seguir haciéndole. Señores ministros de Defensa, sus stocks de munición, dinamícenlos para que sean utilizados en Ucrania. Señores industriales, aumenten su capacidad. Todo ese diálogo no se resuelve en 1 tarde.
Okay, the lady in grey. Yes.
Thank you. Susana Fresh, Expresso, Portugal. I have a question on the 10th package of sanctions. Can we expect the diamonds to be included, and in which way will it be included? Because, well, according to the Portuguese foreign minister, it's going to be in the 10th package. And in regards, well, we have seen Lithuania asking also for the sanctions to target the nuclear sector. Will it be in this package, or it's going to be for the next one? Thank you.
Vamos a ver, lo siento, pero el 10º paquete de sanciones todavía no está aprobado y tenemos ustedes y yo que esperar a que se apruebe. Porque si ahora les digo yo que está o no está y luego no está aprobado. Y cuando se apruebe lo conocerán. ya ha habido información sobre cuáles eran los aspectos más importantes de este paquete, que es básicamente electrónica, vehículos especializados, piezas de recambio para maquinaria, para camiones, para aviones, bienes para la construcción que pueden ser utilizados también para el esfuerzo militar de Rusia, tal como antenas o grúas. Restricción de todos los bienes que puedan ser utilizados a la vez para un fin civil y un fin militar, básicamente bienes tecnológicos, básicamente componentes electrónicos, básicamente materiales raros, cámaras térmicas, todo lo que puede ser utilizado para el campo de batalla. Si además se va a plantear los diamantes, pues francamente no lo sé. No hay sanciones que afecten al sector nuclear, todavía.
Okay, Lailuma, now you have your question.
Thank you. Lailuma Sadet from Brussels Morning and Media Latitude. High Rep, you said that the gender apartheid in Afghanistan, but as I know that the gender apartheid in Africa that happened and the world sanctioned them and the collapse happened, why not with Taliban? Because there is no solution, I think, for this Taliban regime. And also the Pakistani foreign minister in Munich, he said that the world pay most attention for Ukraine and they forgot the threat of Taliban and terrorists in Afghanistan. What's your view in that? Thank you.
Mire, hace poco estuve en Sudáfrica, visité el Museo del Apartheid y conocí mejor la dramática, cruel y terrible realidad que fue el régimen del Apartheid en Sudáfrica, que duró muchos años. Y la lucha para acabar con ese inhumano sistema también duró muchos años. Y desde luego hay que rendir homenaje a las personas que hicieron esa lucha y a todos los que pagaron con su vida la liberación de este sistema para millones de personas. Por lo tanto, el apartheid de género, he utilizado esta figura porque creo que significa bien lo que está ocurriendo en Afganistán. Por el hecho de ser mujer, no por el color de su piel, sino por su género, vive usted aparte. No tiene acceso a, no puede ir a, no puede compartir con. Eso es el apartheid, es un apartheid de género, sí, eso es lo que están construyendo los talibanes allí. Y nosotros luchamos contra eso y por todos los medios que tenemos a nuestra disposición. Las sanciones que hemos adoptado muchas, adoptaremos más, pero tenemos que tener cuidado con que retirar ayuda que va a la población no signifique un doble castigo para la población, la que le infligen los talibanes y la que le infligimos nosotros. Y por eso los ministros han pedido que la ayuda continúe si se cumplen determinadas condiciones. Por ejemplo, una ONG a la que los talibanes obliguen a sustituir trabajadoras por trabajadores y expulsan a las trabajadoras de su actividad y los sustituyen por hombres, no podrá recibir nuestra ayuda. Está claro, los principios tienen que ser respetados, pero si tal cosa ocurre, si ese apartheid de género no se aplica, en ese caso, al menos durante 6 meses de prueba, seguiremos dando ayuda económica que beneficie directamente a los ciudadanos, a la gente de Afganistán, que están en una dramática situación de necesidad. Bueno, no podemos contestar a todas las preguntas, son muchas, ¿no?
Fini, hein?
¿C'est fini?
Ah.
Una más.
Non, on ne peut pas tout prendre.
Una más.
Encore une dernière. Okay. So, Mr. You, yes. Oops. Don't fall.
Thanks. Thank you for the floor. National News Agency of Ukraine, Dmytro Shkurko. Coming back to Ukraine, of course. Today we have got the visit of American President coming to Kiev. What kind of, how useful that visit will be to the common efforts to speed up the armament delivery to Ukraine? In particular, will it increase some kind of security confidence in the frontline EU states? which obviously depleting their military stocks. And the second question is, in the framework of the weaponry procurement, do you consider some kind of possibility to place some kind of production of the ammunition directly in Ukraine? Thanks.
Ahora me va a decir lo que tengo que contestar. She advised me to speak English. Not what I have to say, but which language I have to use. And that's good. To answer the question about Biden's visit to Ukraine, is much better to use English. And, well, in English, in Spanish, in French, or whatever language I could use, it's very important to stress the importance of the visit of the United States President. It only shows the importance that the U.S. are giving to the Ukrainian fight. And we celebrate this visit because it's a way of showing that we are engaged, the U.S. and the European Union and Canada and United Kingdom and many other countries around the world are supporting the fight that Ukraine is waging against the Russian invasion. I don't know if this visit will have such or such concrete deliverables, but certainly it will increase the engagement of the U.S. and with the Ukrainian fighters. And the second question was about what?
About procurement and the placement in Ukraine of the armament.
No, why not? If there were industry in Ukraine, it would be much better. We will save the transport fees. Okay.
Thank you very much. This closes the press conference for today. Thanks to all for your patience, and sorry for not taking all the questions. There were too many.